My name is Sterling, and I am on location. Several days and hundreds of miles later, the Elkton Community Education Center would be the destination of a more low-key outdoor adventure for myself and my Scottish Terrier sidekick, Dogmatics. Based in Elkton, Oregon, the ECEC features a community heritage garden, historic trading fort, which Dogmatics was particularly excited about, and a native plant nursery. There was a lot to see. Dogmatics and I explored the grounds before introducing ourselves. I am at the Elkton Community Education Center with Marjorie. Nice to meet you, Marjorie. So you run the Elkton Community Education Center.
That I do.
How long have you been here?
4 years. We have 30 acres of land here on the banks of the Umpqua River. We have a butterfly rearing program. We've got a replica of a historic trading fort. We've got a market garden that provides fruit and vegetables for the whole community, and a whole range of activities and gardens and walking paths that people can enjoy.
I think we're going to probably have to go see these butterfly gardens.
Absolutely.
And now, what are they primarily for?
We raise monarch butterflies. The monarch population is really struggling. It's been in decline for several decades.
I did not know that.
Well, we are part of a network of folks that are trying to help them come back. So one of the ways we help is that we bring the eggs into a protected area so that they've got a better chance of survival. We will start with some monarchs at the beginning of the season, and by the end of the fall we will probably release 200 to 300 monarch butterflies to start the migration south.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so down in the garden we are going to have you help us build a compost pile. Then over at the fort you're going to be working with some folks from the mid-1800s to make lunch. There's a beautiful elk stew and Johnny cakes. Are you ready to roll your sleeves up? Look, they're already rolled up.
I'm ready to go.
We got a plan for you.
Dogmatics and I went down to the seasonal market garden, where volunteers were waiting for us. Hi, I'm Sterling.
Welcome, Cassandra Olson here at ECEC.
What are we going to be doing today? Why do we have all these shovels and pitchforks?
We're going to be building compost here in the garden. It helps enrich the soil and promotes the positive microorganisms in our soil.
Is that like cultures and yogurt is similar for plants in compost?
We'll go with that.
Okay.
I like that. I'm a AmeriCorps member serving here for 11 months, and I have my 2 trusted employees right now and part of the youth employment program.
Cassidy.
Nice to meet you, Cassidy.
Nice to meet you. Kaya.
Nice to meet you, Kaya. Fantastic, you two. Let's get started.
All right. Pitchfork.
Right.
Be a farmer today.
I've been a farmer before. Who knew the glory I would have here at ECEC? We're adding some water to the compost pile, so it'll help with the bonding and the heat cycles.
This is worm castings, and
It's really worm poo.
exactly.
This is it. This is the finished product. This is our treasure. This is what we're going for. We've made a 12-layer lasagna of poo, biomass, other biomass, pre-processed biomass. Added some red wrigglers. It's ready to go. It's cooking now. So now we're going to move on after making our lasagna to learn a bunch of new skills at Fort Umpqua.
Yes, I heard Johnny Cakes is on the menu.
Oh yeah, but you're washing your hands first. You.
All right.
Specifically, you. After playing with poo, I took Dogmatics next door to the historic trading fort, a replica of Fort Umpqua. I'm Sterling.
Nice to meet you. I'm Kayla.
Nice to meet you, Kayla.
I'm Chris.
Nice to meet you, Chris.
Nice to meet you, I'm Aiden.
Nice to meet you, Aiden. And over here we have
Marvin.
All right, so we have some clothes for me to put on so I look fancy too.
You do indeed.
I hate looking out of place. You guys are all the
You
cool
will
kids.
today if you don't dress up.
So what do we have?
So we have a shirt for you with a high collar and long sleeves to wear. You have protection from bugs and from the sun.
Very fancy, thank you very much.
And then we have a haversack, which is kind of your way of carrying stuff.
It's my man purse. I got it.
And then we have a sash, and this used to represent what nationality people were. The different colors represent different stuff.
All right, then we have this great straw hat.
To protect your head from the sun.
I clearly like hats. Thanks for all this. I'm gonna go put this on so I fit in with this crowd. So Aiden, how you doing?
Looking good, looking good.
Thanks. You got like some fancy stuff here.
All right, well, we're gonna put you to work. We have some corn here, and we have a corn grinder to start the Johnny cakes off.
All right, excellent. It looks pretty simple. I'm just gonna take a wild guess. I turn this.
Pretty much. But first, before that, we gotta put the corn in.
Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna have you pick a piece of corn up, and we're gonna put it right in here.
Do I need to have this spinning before I put the corn in?
Yes,
All right.
yes. You wanna get a nice crank.
Well, that made pretty short work of that.
That did.
I think that worked pretty well.
Okay, so now you're going to grab the corn and bring it over here.
All right, Kayla, what are we doing?
So we're going to take this cup, and we're going to pour it in, and then you're going to crank it again.
More cranking?
Yes.
All right, but this is like a sideways mixer blender, but it's just a corn grinder?
Yes.
That's added stuff.
And then go ahead and crank that.
I feel like I'm making a mess, just like I do at the kitchen. So we grind our corn, then we get it down where we go a couple passes, and we'll get down to this finer corn meal that we can actually use to eat with.
So you want to stir while I add some water?
You bet.
We've got some cornmeal and some salt in here. And we're going to add water a little at a time.
Now, should I be folding it in or
No,
just whatever?
Stirring. Stirring's fine.
It's a lot like making batter at home. It's all in the wrist.
You're not even making a mess.
Are you challenging me?
So we have our horn bowl and our horn spoon here, and we're going to put bacon grease in our cast iron skillet. Swish it around a bit. Okay, yeah, just
You can drop it in.
drop it in however.
Kind of like a macaroon, right?
Yep.
It's looking up pretty nice. All right, so we got our Johnny cakes going, but earlier they started some elk stew for us.
My wife made the stew so she could tell you all about it.
We got an elk yesterday. We have fresh potatoes from the garden. We have carrots from the garden and onions from the garden. So here's your plate.
Great, thank you. Nice horn bowl for this elk stew. No one thought I could cook.
They are so long.
Snacks. The Elkton Community Education Center in Elkton, Oregon had already been a full day of exploring, playing with poo, and making authentic pioneer food. Dog Maddox and I had worked up an appetite, and as luck would have it, it was time for snacks. On the menu was Johnny cakes and elk stew. See, that's what stew's supposed to be. This is good stew. Now I gotta try Johnny cake. I like this. Look at that. It looks better than it tastes, though. We continued our conversation at the table, where we could be a little more comfortable, and Dog Maddox could get some snacks. Nicely, buddy. Oh, good job. Nice manners. How'd you get started with the Fort Umpqua Volunteers and ECEC?
I've been a volunteer at ECEC for about 15 years, and I was involved with our youth employment program and mostly with the native plants at that time. My husband, Marv, was one of the original fort builders here, so he's been a part of this since it started over 10 years ago now.
There were 4 of us that got together and decided to build the fort here. None of us really had any building experience, and so it was strictly a labor of love. We tried to use all of the same methods that the original Hudson Bay Company forts were built with, as far as the joinery, using wooden pegs instead of nails. It took us approximately 4 years to get the two buildings and the walls up. The most difficult part was peeling the logs for the outer wall. So we got the logs and peeled them, and then had to slice them in half with our bandsaw.
Manual labor was needed again, and I was forced to hand pump well water for a wash station. Aiden used this water, plus an authentic washboard and a bar of lye soap, to do some laundry. So now Aiden's finished doing the laundry.
Yep.
We're going to hang it up on the dryer.
Go put it in.
Woo. The fort's clothesline, or dryer, only had one speed, slow, and one setting, delicate. Leaving the laundry behind, Dogmatics and I headed up the hill to the native plant nursery and butterfly pavilion, with a quick pit stop at the Monarch Way Station. Monarch Watch registers stations like these that support monarch butterflies as they migrate throughout North America. Monarch butterfly way stations require milkweeds and nectar plants. The flowers can be attractive, and they led us to butterfly steward Barbara and her assistant Hannah. So what goes on inside this butterfly pavilion?
Well, right now we have painted lady butterflies flying around and laying eggs, and we have painted lady caterpillars and the eggs.
And that's what most of these plants are in here for, snacks for the butterflies?
Exactly.
So when you capture adult butterflies, do you sometimes bring them in here, hope they eat snacks, and then lay their eggs?
Exactly. Yes,
Fantastic.
we do. And in fact, that is the only way we can start our monarch population. In fact, today was the first sighting of a monarch butterfly in our gardens this year. And then we bring the eggs into our research room and raise them in little clear cups and feed them milkweed once they become caterpillars. And then when they form a chrysalis, we bring the chrysalis out here and put it on one of these foam boards, so that when the butterfly emerges from the chrysalis, it's right where we want it to be.
Well, fantastic.
Caterpillars of butterflies become chrysalis. So their skin splits, and there's the chrysalis in there already. And what happens is the caterpillar turns to liquid. It just turns to goo. And so inside the chrysalis is liquid and some clusters of cells that reform as the butterfly.
That's pretty magical. What do you do in the building behind us?
Well, we raise monarch caterpillars in there, and we put them in individual clear cups, feed them milkweed, and twice a day we have to dump the poop out, which is called frass.
That's just a fancy word for poo.
Yes,
All
it
right.
is.
I've heard for years that touching butterflies can be really bad for them.
Butterfly wings are covered with scales. A lot of people think they're covered with powder or dust.
It's like pixie dust
Yes.
and Tinkerbell.
Yes, but no, they're covered with scales. And if you touch a butterfly's wings, some of those scales are going to come off on your fingers. And if that happens enough times, then they won't be able to fly. However, you can touch a butterfly a minimal amount, and it will not affect its ability to fly.
I really wanted to see those butterfly wing scales before we left. Barbara welcomed me into the lab to take a look under the microscope. There are so many scales. They're so tightly packed, you can't even see the pattern on the wing because there's so many tiny, tiny individual scales, like teeny particles of dust.